American Civil War by Samuel Dungan. The American Civil War had been looming for many decades ever since the Revolutionary War, mainly due to the tensions between the northern and southern states over key issues such as state rights versus federal authority, westward expansion, and slavery. The uncompromise over slavery reached its pinnacle point when the Republicans nominated Abraham Lincoln. Lincoln was widely known for his opposition for further expansion of slavery as well as for his endorsement of protective tariffs. With the Democrats split over key issues, this only assured Abraham Lincoln's election into office. With this, some southern states bid for independence from the Union. By March 1861, 7 southern states had successfully seceded from the Union and named Jefferson Davis as president of the Confederate States. These states were South Carolina, Florida, Georgia, Virginia, North Carolina, Tennessee, and Alabama. South Carolina, however, was the first to succeed in December 20th, 1860. During Abraham Lincoln's inaugural speech, he claimed that the secession was illegal and he intended to maintain federal possession of the South. The Civil War's first incident occurred on April 12, 1861, when an attempt was made to resupply Fort Sumter, a federal installation in the harbor of Charleston, South Carolina. Southern artillery opened fire, with this being the first start of the Civil War. 3 days after this incident, President Lincoln called for the troops to put down this rebellion. Shortly after this, Virginia, Arkansas, North Carolina, and Tennessee joined in with the Confederacy. On April 19, President Lincoln issued an order for the Northern troops to blockade the South. This was a ploy to cut off the South's supply of manufactured goods from Europe. The first battle between the two sides was the First Battle of Bull Run, which was fought in the city of Manassas. In this first battle, the Union troops were defeated, and both sides learned that they needed proper training in order to win these battles. After the loss, President Lincoln replaced General McDowell with General George McClellan as the commander of the Union troops. The next battle between the two sides was the Battle of Fort Henry, which was fought on February 6, 1862, in western Tennessee. This battle was the first important victory for the Union and for General Ulysses S. Grant. After this victory, General Grant and his troops captured Fort Donelson. The Battle of Hampton Road, or it is commonly known as the Battle of Minority and Merricks, or the Battle of Ironclads, occurred on March 9, 1862. This battle is perhaps the most important naval battle of the war. Although this battle was a draw, it made significant changes in the American naval warfare. In this battle, it was made clear that wooden ships were obsolete and ushered in an era of steel warships. The Peninsula Campaign was a Union operation that was launched in Virginia in 1862. This was a large-scale offensive attack for the Union campaign in the East. This operation was led by Major General George McClellan. The Peninsula Campaign's most famous battle was the 7-Day Battle. In the series of battles, General E. Lee would usher in a new era of offensive combat that would not only completely unnerve George McClellan, but would force the evacuation of Union troops from this region. The victory only assured that the Civil War would continue for 3 more years. The Battle of Antietam took place in early September in Northern Virginia. This battle marked the first Northern state invasion by the Confederate General Robert E. Lee. This battle was fought in Maryland and is known as the bloodiest day in American history. General E. Lee's complex operation divided his forces, who were already outnumbered, into different forces. What seemed like a very smart plan was ruined when a lost copy of the battle plans was found by Union soldiers. However, General McClellan wasted this advantage. The outcome of this battle was a draw, however, with yet another Union defeat. This provided President Lincoln the political cover he needed to issue his Emancipation Proclamation. The Battle of Shiloh was the battle of Union troops' western front. The battle began when the Confederates made a surprise attack on the Union troops, which was led by General Grant. In the beginning of the battle, they were experienced, successful. However, they eventually were unable to hold their position, which led the Union victory. The Battle of Chancellorsville is viewed as a major battle in the Civil War. This battle was fought between General Hooker and General Lee in the Wilderness region of Virginia. In this battle, General Lee is recognized for his risky decision-making by dividing up his forces. This move is called the flank movement, which was developed by General Lee and General Stonewall Jackson. This helped General Lee win yet another battle. With this victory, it gave the Southerners hope because the Northerners were losing troops. However, With this risky move, General Lee lost his most entrusted general, General Stonewall Jackson. The Battle of Gettysburg was a pinnacle battle in the Civil War and considered the turning point of the war. After General E. Lee's successful victory in Chancellorsville, he decided to begin a second invasion of the North. General Lee intended to influence the Northern politicians so they would give up on this war. Heavily influenced by President Lincoln, General Hooker and his army pursued General Lee. However, he was relieved of command only 3 days before the battle and was replaced by General Meade. The two armies started the battle on January 1st, 1863. Still to this day, this is known as the largest military battle in the United States history. In addition, this battle would take a long 3 days. In the first day of battle, the Confederate forces gained a victory over General Buford. On the second day, General E. Lee launched a heavy assault. However, the Union were able to hold their line against these Confederate assault, the victory, and they would get the victory for the day. On the third and final day, the Union forces held their line against an infantry assault by the Confederates. General Lee and his forces were forced to retreat to Virginia, thus ending the Northern seizure. In the end of the battle, roughly 51,000 soldiers had lost their lives. 4 months after the Union soldiers have won this battle, President Lincoln dedicated the Soldiers' National Cemetery in Gettysburg. In this event, he delivered his most famous speech, the Gettysburg Address, where he elevated the importance of war by reiterating what human equality was. The following year, the Confederates took heavy loss at all major battles, but none weakened them more than the fall of Atlanta. Atlanta was taken by General Sherman during his famous March to the Sea. In the March to the Sea, he led his troops through the state of Georgia, seizing everything they came in contact with, as well as burning Atlanta, which was a vital Confederate state. General Sherman marched to Savannah and captured it, as well as burning everything on the East Coast on his march to Virginia. The Confederates finally waved the white flag after the Union forces cut off General E. Lee and his forces from leading the rest of his army to North Carolina. General Grant accepted Lee's surrender in a proximate court. The war was finally over after the last Confederate troops surrendered on May 26, 1865, marking the end of the bloodiest war in American history.